Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Coffee Fest Pacific Northwest. Coffee Fest is happening on the 15th and 16th of November with a satellite event starting on the 14th, which is a full day workshop called Lean into Leadership, Defining Success and Culture. This is going to be a full day workshop that's going to be led by myself and Jen O'Hare. The ticket price will include access to Coffee Fest as well as obviously the workshop and lunch on the day of the full day workshop. It's going to be extraordinary. So head to coffeefest.com/leadership and get your tickets today. I can't wait for this event that is brought to you by Coffee Fest and Map It Forward. All right, I really want to get into this topic for today. Today on the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, we're talking about wage transparency and the danger of not paying attention. I'm hearing from people that are saying things like, does it really matter what's going on with the wage transparency reports that are coming out? Now, they're not really reports. They are a transparency spreadsheet that's being made available via a Google Drive document, a spreadsheet for different cities around the world that give baristas the opportunity to go in there and put in their data that tells you where they've worked or where they currently are working, their pay rate, their average tip rate per hour, and some other ancillary information that isn't specific to necessarily required by every report. Things like details about whether they belong to a minority group, and etc., etc. So I personally think these reports are a wonderful movement. I have a caveat to some of that because the data is being compiled without it being done in a way that the data can be screened and confirmed and validated. That presents a problem. And I was speaking about that earlier in the podcast the last couple of days as well as late last week. Here's the thing. When employers don't pay attention, regardless, if you are looking at this and saying, well, screw them, like as if this is going to have any effect on whether I'm going to hire or not. It may not have an effect on whether you're going to hire or not, but it will absolutely have an effect on whether people want to work with you or not. And that will affect the longevity of your business. Further, mainstream press outlets, mainstream in the hospitality industry, are starting to pick up on these reports and talk about them. This is a really important issue for employees of our industry. And I've been saying this for the longest time, particularly in countries like the US and in different parts of Europe where baristas are paid purely on the majority of their wage comes from their tips. We are expecting our customers to subsidize our employees' wages. And that's a dangerous game. And this situation that we're in right now could only have been expected. I know that people keep telling me that the tipping culture is it's a part of the American culture. It's a part of the coffee culture in a lot of the world. Okay, great. But sooner or later, it was going to come to a head that we were expecting the people who connect the products that we're selling with the customers that are buying it. Sooner or later, we're going to expect them to require to be paid an amount that supports a living wage. A lot of these kids are not being paid enough to pay their basic living standards. Having said all of that, though, comes another caveat to the argument, and one that we as an industry have to take very seriously. And this is the challenge for the struggle that is being carried mostly by the cafe owner. And that is, they cannot raise the price of the beverages that they're selling without receiving a backlash from customers. So let me dissect that even further. We have a problem being experienced all over the world. And that is, what is the value that our customers are placing on the cups of coffee that we're selling? Okay. In Australia, where I was a barista for 15 years solid, we had a real problem every time we wanted to increase the price, even 10 cents a cup. Because that was, in the Australian culture, a real commitment from our customers, because they were spending, they were already spending in the order of $3.50 to $4 a cup for a standard espresso-based drink. Then they were doing that sometimes up to 5 times a day for some customers. To ask them to spend 50 cents extra a day times 5 days a week, to some people that didn't make sense, when they could just go to another cafe and not have to cop the difference in price. Now what people are saying is, what we're going to do is we need to increase the wage of our employees. We're not going to be able to shift the price of what we're charging for a cup of coffee, whatever the kind of coffee that is. And already the margins of running my business are somewhere in the order of between 3% and 10%, if I'm lucky. 10% on the high, very high side for cafes, and 3% on average, with most places either losing or not having an idea if they're making money or not. This takes us deeper into the problem. And you may think I'm talking crazy with all of this, but the thing is, in our industry, people seem to think in the scope of the realm with which they operate. And we have too many divides going on. We have too many people saying, well, this is what we need as a workforce. And then we have other people saying, well, this is what we need as cafe owners. And then other people saying, this is what we need as people who import and export coffee. And then we have producers saying, well, this is what we need as producers of coffees. And it's endless. The problem therein stands that we as an industry are not looking at the whole flow of it. So while the owners of the business that you're working for would love to pay you more, they can't do that without raising prices. The customers prevent them from raising prices. So what we say then is, well, and this is the next layer of it, why don't we have business owners start to create their own version of transparency by showing employees what their numbers are? Let's have business transparency to employees so that business owners can start breaking down exactly how little they make, so that their employees can start to see where the margins lie and where the business is actually losing money. Now, here's the problem with that. That requires business owners, first of all, to understand their numbers. And I'm telling you now, friends, there are a ton of people that don't want to admit that they don't understand their numbers. They don't understand their profit and loss. They don't understand their balance sheet. They don't understand what gross profit and net profit means. 2, it means they have to admit to their team that they're running a business that's either not profitable at all or is only slightly profitable. And there's a shame that comes with that. 3, It means they have to understand how to fix things from the perspective of the numbers. And most business owners don't know how to do that. 4, they have to have the time to be able to dissect these numbers, understand them for themselves, and then be able to communicate that to you, knowing and having confidence that as their employees, you won't go and talk to the shame that's involved in revealing that information to other people. They're all really big asks. And I know a number of business owners that would love to be able to do those kinds of things, but don't have the confidence that the information that they share, once they've gone through all of the things that are necessary to understand their numbers, and all of this takes time. They have to pay an accountant to explain it to them. They have to have got in a position where they've worked through the shame that comes with it. They have to learn how to communicate it. All of this stuff takes time for them to do. And then they have to take the leap of faith of, once they project that information to you and they put it up on a screen in front of you at a team meeting, that nobody's going to take a photo of that and then go and show somebody else. All of these things are big asks. And while it's wonderful and awesome that these transparency reports are coming out from the employee perspective, the response to that that's got to come is going to be something that's going to need a ton of faith from employees within themselves, for them to have to admit that their businesses aren't doing anywhere near as well as they want you to think that they're doing. And an understanding from all of us that we need to start working together to get this industry more profitable for the people involved, so that we can all start moving forward with more confidence. Friends, things are much more broken than you're aware of. And people are suffering in silence. Baristas have been suffering in silence for far too long. Business owners have been suffering in silence for far too long. It's time we start. And baristas are doing this, getting the courage to start speaking up, despite the shame that might come from having this transparency. So we've got one type of transparency from the employee side. Now we need the same level of transparency from the employer's side. That's a much bigger ask than what is happening with regards to the employees, because in doing so, we end up in a situation that is just terrifying for everybody. All right. On that note, peace on peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day, friends.